You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. And now returning to our main story on India's strong growth in the manufacturing sector, we have with us Subhamoy Bhattacharjee, Senior Economic Journalist, and Dr. Charan Singh, eminent economist and CEO of the eGrow Foundation. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. Dr. Charan Singh, does India's growth of 7.6% in the last quarter come as a surprise, or would you have expected it?
I would have expected it. The reason was that India's growth has always been underestimated. And unfortunately, there are people within the country and economists who have worked within top notches of the government. Sometimes they casting doubts on India's growth. Actually, if you live in India and you see the type of activities that are taking place, one really wonders that there is lots of vibrancy and resilience in the Indian economy. All types of activities, all types of work is up there. Though the CMI data sometimes show us the unemployment figures, but if you compare them with the PLFS data, the periodic labor force surveys, they're very different. If you see it in real life, you see so much of activity going on. So therefore, I was expecting that what the RBI had actually predicted in their monetary policy, that in Q2 it will be 6.5. I was very sure it's going to be larger than that.
Right.
Okay. Look at the traffic at the airports, look at the train traffic, look at the output that's being produced, look at the informal sector, the activities that are taking place. Obviously, as it meets the eye, you would see the growth was expected to be high, and that's what it translated to.
Mr. Bhattacharjee, so, I mean, given what Dr. Singh has been saying, why are economists also optimistic about the PMI continuing to grow in 2024? How healthy is this demand going to, is it going to sustain?
Yeah, that's an interesting part. I mean, as of now, what has happened is that the economies, if you look at in terms of the credit growth from the banks, that has really started shaping up. So if you start looking that from the last year and a half, then obviously the manufacturing expansion that's happening is not surprising, because the sustained rise in credit has gradually built into more working capital cycle, and therefore that is pushing the manufacturing. So I would expect the manufacturing's output growth to continue. If you look at the car sales figures, which is always a very good leading indicator, and remember, car sales is not just about selling to the richer income groups.
Yes.
Car has got a very long tail in terms of what it does to lots of companies, especially in the small and medium enterprises. So that creates a long manufacturing cycle. Okay, so that is something that is useful.
So the components as well, and all the raw materials and the supply part chain and so. But Dr. Singh, how do you view the business confidence over the next 12 months?
So continuing from what the figure which was just been discussed about the car sales and commercial vehicles, you know that I have been always saying that housing sector has interlinkages, inter-industry linkages, forward and backward to the extent of about 270 to 280 industries. The next comes cars. So working in Bangalore at IIM, I used to be discussing with the Toyotas, and many times they would tell me the interlinkages are so high with commercial vehicles or in the car manufacturing that once you find that some of these leading indicators, which has just been mentioned, you find then the backward effects are also very high. Given that fact, now if you look at what's happening in the Indian economy, we look at the 8 core sector, 8 core industries, they've been performing very well. You look at the IIP data, that's also performing very well, in the manufacturing especially. That is the reason that you find that the confidence in the Indian economy is very, very high. And people are happy, people are comfortable with whatever be the political cycle that is there is stability there. And I think that's something very important, which everybody has to factor in. The rest of the world is factoring in. The second point which I found is that whatever said and done, whatever be the circumstances, there is a support mechanism to the industrial production that is taking, that is being discussed. And as far as the purchasing power is concerned, or demand for goods that are being produced in the manufacturing sector is concerned, you would have noticed that this is happening. Again, the free food or food subsidy for 5 years is being extended. So to
Okay.
that extent, purchasing power is there in the hands of the people, and
All
they
right.
can spend on manufacturing.
Fair enough. Mr. Bhattacharjee, then how much of does manufacturing growth? You've talked about the different other component manufacturer and all those who are actually impacted. But how much of it does this impact employment generation as a whole? Dr. Singh was talking about purchasing power.
Yeah, employment generation, the latest figures are rather interesting. I mean, actually, it's fallen, unemployment. So it does show that the amount of unemployment, which was sort of staying as a very strong overhang, is sort of tapering out. Now, further strengthening of that should come from the next round of RBI data on consumption.
Okay.
So if you see consumption rising, consumption as of now, private consumption has been flat, about 56% or so. And if you see that figure rising, that I would say is the secret sauce, because that would mean that the consumers are feeling confident to be able to purchase more. And
Okay.
this has a very strong impact on the economy. It has not happened yet, but what has happened is that the unemployment figures have come down. And that itself is a striking figure. You also see another thing that's happening along with, which Dr. Charan Singh was pointing out, which was the fact that the governments at the state and especially at the center have extended what is called the iron basket, the food security scheme, to the people. So that provides a safety net. And that's a very important safety net for people to factor in their daily lives as they
Yes.
decide on their income and decision between income and savings. So we shall be seeing a lot of variations now. What you're essentially very clearly seeing is that the Indian economy is now not only the fastest growing one, but also the most interesting one because of the size of the economy. It's a
Yes.
hugely growing, expanding one. What needs to be seen is that how further will this expansion of growth occur? I mean, is it just simply picking up on the slack of the pandemic? Well, the pandemic is long behind us.
Yes.
So quarter by quarter, you're actually seeing steady growth coming along over and over again. So
Indeed.
so abstracting from, say, figure of 7.6, what you should look at is essentially that the economy's growth rate is continuing to sustain. And in this world, when the average is around 2.4 or something, averaging anything above
Yes.
6 is a huge jump. And
Okay.
that
And
I think is the big takeaway.
it's also very broad-based. Dr. Charan Singh, any concerns regarding inflation, especially with price shocks likely from the wars that are currently on in Ukraine and the Middle East?
This is very surprising in our own country. Means while others have been talking about it, but the latest data that came out on inflation, if you look at the industrial workers, just came out a few days back. It's the overall is around 4.5, 4.4, 4.5, and the food is around 6.3. So that food is little high up there. But if you look at the data on CPI as well as the WPI, I don't see anything of concern there. But I want to mention one thing which you had asked me earlier, and I think there's something important I want to share with you. If you look at the GST collection, this is the highest in this year, and it's around 15% year on year. Now, for some time, the economists were telling me that, look, the GST collection is almost matching the CPI and WPI, and therefore, you can't see much into the GST collection. It's just keeping a certain pace. Now, that argument doesn't hold this time now.
Okay.
GST collection is much higher than your inflation. So it's not that GST is keeping pace with inflation.
Yes.
Even if you look at the direct tax collections, which has happened, both corporate IT and personal IT, they are
Right.
also recording a growth rate of about 30% or 18% respectively.
Sure.
So therefore, the confidence of the people in manufacturing, in industry, and in
Okay.
general is really high.
Sure, I'm running short of time. Mr. Bhattacharjee, India's PMI has hit a lifetime high of 58.90 in the past. Currently, it's at 56. So what are the chances of reaching a new lifetime high?
No, let's not look at those because those are survey numbers, and they tend to fluctuate a lot on a month-on-month basis because that is a purchasing managers index survey going forward of what they expect. The fact that the numbers are showing expansion and a very clear expansion is a very important indicator that essentially they are pushing for growth further.
Okay.
This is something that is going to help us around. So that itself, as well as we discussed a lot of the leading indicators, including electricity consumption, these are showing that the economy is reaching
Yes.
the fairly strong strength of its capacity
Okay.
and will be pushing on towards capacity expansion very soon. Yeah.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Shubhomay Bhattacharjee and Dr. Charan Singh. Thank you for enlightening us on India's strong economic performance. Now continue.